Welcome to On the Fence, the show that's about helping you decide whether or not to spend your hard-earned money on the biggest and possibly best releases. Nick.
Hans.
This time we are looking at Outriders from People Can Fly and Square Enix.
Yes.
I didn't have to check my notes for that.
The Bulletstorm developers.
Yep. I've lost my notes.
God damn it, Hans.
It doesn't have the genre. We'll say third-person online shooter, Nick.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, welcome to Outriders, Hans. The latest and greatest?
What, the latest attempt to kill Destiny?
Well, the latest looter shooter. Mm-hmm. I maybe think calling it a Destiny killer is maybe a bit overkill. Not enough to spend a bit more time with it.
Well, a Destiny killer is not necessarily. It's more of a attempted Destiny killer.
Like, no, well, I don't like that's. As I've played it more, I've realized they're not going for Destiny. Like, I don't even like. Now that I've played it a bit more, I actually don't even think this is like a live service type thing. But yes, this is Outriders, the third-person shooter from People Can Fly, as Hans said, the Bulletstorm developers. Mm-hmm. And yes, this is not a re-release of a PS3 game, despite what everything you see may look like. This is in fact a new game. Because boy howdy, does this game feel like it came straight out of like 2010.
yeah, like graphically it's...
Graphically I think it looks nice. It's just it's the design and the aesthetic and all that, and even the level design when we get into it.
I would not say it looks... it looks fine. Yeah. I'm not looking at this going like, oh... I'm looking at it going like, it's a game.
I think there is cool shit in the design, but we'll get into it. So let's kick it. So, to set up the scene in Outriders, Earth is done. It is kaput.
Looks alright here.
This is not Earth.
Ah, okay.
If the fucking floating shit in the distance and all that jazz didn't give it away. You are part of a colony ship that lands on this planet after Earth essentially is deemed unsavable and is about to essentially collapse in on itself. And you get to this planet, and it's one of, I think, two planets that they have found in years of searching that is deemed that this could be a new habitat.
That looks an awful lot like Earth.
So you get here, everything seems okay, and then suddenly these massive electronic storms start hitting and causing terrible things, and there's a black goop virus that starts infecting people, and it's an all-around bad time.
Okay.
And your character, this guy here who I created, this is the first default face they give you if you want any idea of how generic they want this guy to be. Mm-hmm. Is put into cryo freeze and is cryo frozen for 31 years, I think. And essentially in that time, this ship over here, we were part of the first responders. We came down to kind of scope the planet and get everything set up for everyone else who was colonized on this ship. Our message to say, do not come down here, stay on the ship, did not make it through to them, and they come down, and essentially it becomes a war between the people who are why the fuck are we on this planet, and the people who are kind of trying to not let everything devolve into chaos. In the run-up to you getting cryo-frozen, you get caught in one of the small electrical storms, and you get powers that make you an altered. So I have different abilities like this. I can summon a thing that fires rockets. I can summon a turret. And there's 4 different classes, and each of them kind of do a different thing. I am the Technomancer class. And then, you wake up and you kind of find some of your former allies 31 years later and kind of want to help them, get a move on and find a way to resolve the issues. Which is what I'm doing. So, at the minute, my character is trying to find the signal of one of the first probes we sent down to the planet 31 years ago, which landed outside of essentially this valley we have landed in is surrounded by those electrical storms I was talking about.
Alright.
So, it appears to have landed outside the valley.
Yes. Looks like the cable car's down. Might ask those soldiers if there's a way to get them working.
So, you said you are an altered. are there other altars other than the NPCs, or has it just been like you're like the first of your kind sort of thing?
They are very few and far between, and the couple I've encountered have either been enemies,
Yep.
or have been one NPC who is like, essentially treats himself as a god and is saying he is above all this bullshit and has a bigger fight to fight.
And was he a part of the guys who came with you? I assume?
I believe he was on the ship. Everyone who is on this planet so far has been confirmed as someone who's either been on the ship or has been born on this planet since then.
No, in the 31 years.
Yeah.
So is it implied that you get these powers by going into the electrical storm, or was that
So
one
some
off
people, when they
electrical
touch the electrical storm, just instantly get evaporated and die. Other people, yeah, it manifests in these powers. It seems like 99% of people are the ones that are dying.
Ow! Blah, flames me up! Blah, blah. Just this dude just chucking flames in the background while you're trying to have this conversation.
They have the car on their side. You could try saying pretty please.
Thanks, I'll pass. What about the other?
Banter, right? So we go all fucked?
So like, I will say now that I really enjoy the gunplay side of this and the gameplay and the actual like third-person shooting aspect of it.
Yes.
Everything else in this game is so fucking generic. It hurts. Between the way the story itself is generic, the way it's told is generic. Everyone sounds like fucking male soldier number 3 in the credits. It is generic as fuck, and it honestly kind of makes me mad at how generic it is because I really like the fucking shooting.
Cable car, I gotta go deal with that volcano.
He sounds like the guy from the first series of Altered Carbon. But because it's a video game, he won't have that charisma.
Yeah, it's just like, I need like, we'll get into it when I think this is us kind of like pressing forward through like the story, and that's kind of why the world is designed. But I'll make my way through this, and just like this next bit, I'm sure will show us how fucking generic this game kind of is designed, because it's very much that old school like philosophy of walk through this narrow corridor, get bits of story as you walk through it, come to this wide open area that has all these waist-high covers that you can use, deal with the combat encounter, lather, rinse, repeat over and over and over again.
So, because you are, I think there are aliens on this planet, by the way.
Yes, so yeah, that was what they recently introduced, and there's kind of, those, as I mentioned, like 3 kind of types of enemies. There is your generic soldier fodder who will like use the waist-high cover and kind of take pot shot, try to flank you, things like that.
Yeah.
You have the kind of boss soldier type things, where they even introduce like some like interruption mechanics and stuff, so you'll have certain abilities that can interrupt their abilities and things like that, which they're really actually kind of really fun to fight against. And then you also have this mutant side of things where they are like monsters.
So it looks like what you just did there, so it's less of a kind of a linear corridor, more of a hub area, yeah?
So the way it kind of works is you'll make your way through like a bunch of different areas that are kind of laid out like this. So you see I started at this camp, and then I've made I can't zoom in this map, by the way, this is not me being pedantic.
Oh my god, right, that's cool.
Yeah, so you'll make your way through like each of these areas, and like generally be like, oh, a side quest will take you down this path, or the main quest will take you down this path. Some of these areas will have like the flags that I can plant down, that just lets me fast travel.
Yeah.
And then to move between these areas, I talk to a guy back at the main camp. And it just seems like the game will continue on, like just unlocking more of these areas as I proceed. So like this is like the 3rd one I've gotten into so far.
Like the idea of like, okay, so you're the first kind of people doing this, you're conquering this new world, like the idea of like, oh, like you're establishing camps and stuff would be really quite cool, like almost similar to a way that Dragon Age Inquisition did it. You know, you establish a camp and you can use that, but like you just put down a flag and there's then a box magically appears, you know, like it would be cool if like, you know, because you established that, you'll maybe get the occasional ally who you know does a patrol.
I suppose maybe the side of it is that you're also not like, you're no longer the new person on this planet because it's been 31 years.
But it takes more than 31 years to set up civilization.
True.
So why are you then like going like have you rewoken from like hibernation? Why are you going across all the? Are you trying to help establish the planet, or
you meet back up with the people who, like, your allies prior to you being cryogenically frozen?
Yeah.
And then they kind of like you're just kind of assisting them. Like, obviously you're unaltered, so you're kind of like a super soldier,
Yeah.
which kind of means you can get shit done. And they are on like the losing side of this war at the minute. So you're kind of helping them, and then one of the quests essentially says, yo, I still, like, the electrical storm essentially nukes all electronics, so, like, we don't have radios and things like that. And then one of the guys I'm, like, tasked to go save essentially says, yo, I have this briefcase that's made of metal, and this radio inside is still connected to something, and it's connected to a bit of the ship.
But it's weird as well, because like that idea of like, okay, so we are a civilization, like we're rebuilding civilization. Like they could have done a lot of cool stuff with like the fact that so we've had to like become a lot more primitive, but still have guns, because guns aren't necessarily electronic, you know, like.
Oh god, okay.
That like that would be really cool, but instead of just going for this generic sci-fi look, like that, like, you know, like you imagine like, okay, so like we have guns, but we still communicate via pigeons, because you know it's, you know, it's a silly example, but like that sort of idea. Like you're world tier 6.
Yeah, so that's actually that's convenient that popped up there. Gives me a reason to talk about it. So there's kind of the difficulty side of it. There's no explicit difficulty setting. Instead, you get that world tier system where I'll actually probably need to show this first. At the core of this game, it is a loot game. Like this Destiny-ass looking screen, it is a loot game. Like you'll get different tiers of loot, which are like different levels and things like that. But you'll see that I'm a level 10. But say I have these level 11 pants, I have, I think, like this level 12 gun. So that all comes down to the world tier system that's in the game. So you start at world tier 1, which is just like, alright, enemy levels are going to be 2 levels lower than you. All the gear you get will be 2 levels lower than you. And then that generally ramps up and ramps up and ramps up till you're getting to, like, say, so world tier 5. Enemies will be 2 levels higher than you, but you'll be dropping 2 item levels higher than you.
Yeah.
And the wearable item cap is a permanent unlock now that I can now unlock, or I can permanently use weapons and items that are 2 levels higher than my own level.
Right, okay.
And then, so this almost levels up as like another experience bar, like your character's level, until like you're getting stuff like, alright, so higher level stuff is like, alright, you can, animal levels are plus 10, but it increases stuff like, you're more likely to get better loot, and legendaries are more likely to drop more often. So I actually really like this. Like, it's almost like sliding scale, and the fact that, like, excuse me, it does kind of ramp up, and then you can decide, alright, maybe now is the bit that's getting too difficult for me, and I can just stick to, like, say, world tier 6 or world tier 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it's better than just a straight up, yo, here's hard, here's medium, here's easy and shit like that. Because then it means also then I think that if I remember correctly, it takes the host, so obviously for multiplayer stuff, it takes the host level. And then obviously it means that you could your allies will get the same buffs as you, so like they'll be getting higher level gear than they could potentially be using.
Hold to observe.
How much bigger can they get?
Nearly every creature we've encountered on this planet has evolved rapidly since we landed in unnatural and...
That was my pet spider, Steve. It's evolved into
Whether
this.
they've been adapting to the anomaly's hostile conditions or being changed by the anomaly.
So,
What the hell does it matter? Just don't let any...
you said there's 2 warring factions.
Yeah.
Do you think you will swap sides halfway through this
No,
story?
it is very much set up that the insurgents are complete assholes.
Right, okay. But like, it seems weird. But like,
It almost like the twist to me, I think, is going to be that there is almost like a civilization outside of this valley, and like that they will and that they are like either good or evil, to be determined. Do you see the way he had a cast bar there? Like that's the stuff that I can interrupt with certain abilities,
Right.
but none of my abilities are kind of that quick cast that I would be able to interrupt that at the minute. So there is 4 classes in this. And then the ways the classes interact is kind of why I really like the gunplay side of this. So one of the main hooks in the game is there's no typical health regen. Like, my health just doesn't passively regen. Each class regens health in a different way.
Oh, that's cool.
So the Technomancer, it's just any flat damage you do to an enemy regens your health. So if I take damage and then I shoot an enemy, I will start regenning health. And it kind of ties into what they expect each class, or what kind of role they expect each class to play when it comes to multiplayer. So I believe when I played the demo, I was the Pyromancer, which was probably, so to speak, the main DPS type class, or like the mid-range class. So they would typically, let's just get that up. So they would regen health whenever they deal damage with one of their fire abilities, or if an enemy is on fire, as it keeps ticking down, they'll keep regenning health.
Yeah.
Your Technomancer is just, you deal damage, you get health back. The Trickster, I believe, is like the idea of the close range DPS. So like, they'll regen the damage that they deal while they're in close range. So whether that be like melee attacks or shotguns and stuff.
Alright.
And like their abilities kind of reinforce that in terms of like a lot of their abilities are like, oh, we like a warp forward and things like that to get into an enemy's grill. And then the final class, like the Devastator, which is like a tank class, which kind of deals damage. Again, it's kind of like up close, like the damage you deal up close will be the damage you regen back.
So, that is cool, but like the fact that it all kind of just boils down to deal damage to heal seems weird. Like,
so that is why I think this game really misrepresents itself early, in that I told you it's a cover-based shooter, and I feel like that's not the way to play the game. Even against like the soldier enemies, I'm not using a lot of cover, because obviously if you're sitting there behind cover, you're not regenning health.
yeah.
So it's really like, it almost feels like the cover is more there for the enemies to use and not really you.
And I think as well, like on top of that, like although each class regains health by doing different things, but each it still all revolves around dealing damage. So like to me, it would not have been cool to have like a healer item. And
But that, like, that's sort of, so I'll get into the ones that warp. I'm going to warp back to the first area and kind of show off a side quest just to show me facing ordinary enemies. So each class also has like these skill trees,
yeah.
which then like kind of spec into stuff like, oh, I think there was one around here that's like, or maybe I'm blind. Is it down here? It's stuff like, oh, enemies near or allies near my turret will like regen health passively and things like that. So like you can sort of spec into some more supportive roles, but then like for single player, like I kind of get why they've done it for single player, because sitting there in single player and being a healer always kind of sucks in games like this. So having all classes almost boil down to, yo, I can deal damage, and as long as I'm dealing enough damage, I'm not dying.
Yeah. So does I think the way it works is there's like a hub area before you go out into like the battle zones. So you've encountered 3 hub
Yeah, so
areas.
yeah, each of them kind of has one main hub area where like you'll have your shops and things like that, and then the other bits you're finding are just like these warp points that you can go back and forth to. Let me just run.
Wow, getting strong Anthem vibes from this hub, not gonna lie.
So let me do this side quest that I've already done. You can replay side quests at any time.
I've noticed this is the second time I've noted texture popping, not gonna lie.
So yeah, I will say, yeah, we're playing on the Series X. Like, this is not the PC version, which has been reported to have a couple of weird technical issues, mainly just in stuttering and things like that, but I think those have been since dealt with in a NVIDIA driver.
Don't mind all this crap on it. I keep all the good stuff.
And yeah, yes. I believe it's on most consoles.
Oh, well,
Altered. I didn't know. Think I care? He was about to show me the good stuff. Just acting on orders.
Yep. Great, you're an asshole.
Whose orders?
Awesome. Not annoyed that he just killed a man, but man, he was going to show me the good stuff. Well, now you could just take the good stuff.
First fucking day.
Like, why would, like, I'm not being funny, right? But see that idea of, like, worst fucking day. If they kept that tone of, like, your guy is just so fed up with all this shit, that would be way funnier than just, yeah, Semper Fi, fuck yeah.
This guy Barker.
He
fights dirty, preys on the innocent. His men are loyal.
So what is this mini mission thing?
So this is just, yo, that guy wanted to show me stuff and this guy shot him, so I'm gonna go fuck up his boss. But a lot of the missions are like that sort of thinly veiled, like, premise, to be honest. It's like, oh, I find a wounded soldier, and like, oh, this guy wounded me and took out my squad, can you go kill him? And I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? That's murder.
It's like he passes away, like, well, guess I don't have to do that now.
Yeah, it's...
Like, so, yeah, that is very, like, first Gears of War-esque.
Yeah, like, it's the thing that I've, like, just noticed is, like, as much as, yes, like, there are still third-person shooters, and, like, I don't think anyone would disagree with that, they have evolved, and it just feels like this game is not one of those evolved ones.
Have you played this with anyone? Like
No.
Bunchy or IY?
No.
Or
Alex has played a bit of this, but I don't believe he plans on going back to it.
so you don't know whether it's better with friends?
I don't know, like, having, like, say, like, one of the melee classes would probably be good, because then it would mean, like, if I'm this damage dealing class that naturally is better with snipers, then I'm not having to, like, deal with weapon fire and shit like that as often. But as it stands, I don't know, like, I don't think it would be much better with friends, or I don't think it would feel much different with friends.
I think this is the thing as well, with like this idea of like dealing damage and stuff, like, especially when you're against ranged opponents. Like,
That's not...
if you had like a white mage or healing spells and stuff like that,
I don't want
it
that
gives
guy.
you the option of when you're fighting these guys. So like, it's fine whenever they're melee, like the mutants and stuff, because they're running at you and they can't do damage from a distance, so you don't have to hide in cover. But like, if you're hiding in cover and say you're on like 1 HP, you're not going to want to risk popping your head out, because chances are you're going to die. So having that other option of a healing that's with like a mage class or healing items or stuff, like, and then having that tie into, yeah, well, you get a buff or you get healed. You know, the white mage class, you know, gets healed whenever they heal people, or get a buff whenever they heal people. Like, the idea of, like...
Oh, I didn't melee fast enough, I should have just shot him.
Like, the other thing, like, the idea of, like, yeah, like, people... Different classes regaining health different ways is awesome, but they haven't gone far enough with that, I don't think.
I don't know. But, like, the thing is, like, you still need to make every class enjoyable to play completely solo player, and I don't feel like, if you're like, oh, you only regen health or get stuff either when you're casting abilities or when you heal someone else, that's very difficult to implement in single player.
But that's what I'm saying, like, if you get, like, still have the idea of, like, yeah, you take damage whenever you're healing, but, like, have more options, be that, other than just, you have to hurt people to heal, like, have more options for healing.
I put that in the wrong place.
Did you have this much trouble last time?
No.
How has the difficulty been playing solo? Like, I know you obviously talked about, like, the world tiers and stuff, but, like...
It's been completely fine. Like, I've not had any issue with it. And obviously then the game, like, kind of gets harder and harder as you play because of the world tier stuff.
Yeah.
But I've never felt the need to, like, drop the world tier or anything.
Until now. But that's still done damage even if you were in cover?
It just depends where the grenade is. Like, if the grenade was on the other side of that wall, no. But because it was, like, behind the wall with me, yes.
Like, it is. Like, I'm just watching this and I'm just like, this just looks like Gears of
I don't want. Why do I want the sniper rifle? There we go.
It looks like Gears of War with the models of the Division.
Like, as I mentioned, yes, this game is painfully generic. But, like, I do enjoy it, and it's just, like, I wish it wasn't generic.
Yeah. And it's weird as well, like, that this has come from the same people who did Bulletstorm.
Yeah. Which is, like, it's funny because Bulletstorm was almost tongue-in-cheek with its, like...
Yeah, how, like...
with its tropes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, they played it almost as if it was parody.
Yeah.
And that really helped it have a character. And then, like, on top of, like, then the gameplay was fantastic, you know. But yeah, the fact they just took, like, the meatheads and then just kind of cranked that up to 11, it's weird. Like, it's almost like it's curious, like where they reined in a wee bit with this, possibly.
Yeah.
I love how everyone kind of spawned at the same time there.
Oh, that's not where I thought that gun would spawn.
So, look, do you have anything else to show us before we cut ahead to your thoughts and opinions?
Not overly. I don't think so.
Not a worries. Well, then, we will now cut ahead to Nick's final thoughts on Outriders. Nick,
Hands.
if I was on the fence about Outriders, what would you say to me?
I would say that underneath the like real fucking generic stuff in this game, I think the actual gameplay itself and just the way the combat is designed is really, really cool and really enjoyable, and actually it's nice to see a combat game that doesn't encourage you to kind of hold back and kind of be a pussy almost. And I think the powers themselves I think are actually really cool, and some of the effects are really cool. I think it's just a shame that it is bogged down with all this other stuff in it that just feels so generic and so uninteresting that it, like, yeah, as I mentioned, it like just feels ripped straight out of like a game from 10 years ago. And the fact it just feels so unevolved from what we've kind of gotten to these days. You'll mention it when you get to the usual stuff, but like it is almost the perfect game for Game Pass because you're not paying for it, and it's just like when you do get bored of it, you can drop it when you want. But asking someone to pay full price for this game, I think, is overkill, and just if you can get it as part of Game Pass, probably the best approach. Otherwise, I think it's worth playing if you do have Game Pass and can play it there. But paying full price for this game would be
Hard to justify.
Yeah, very hard to justify. Even if you are playing it with friends, I don't think it would make it that much more enjoyable. I think it would make it more enjoyable as playing with friends for most things, but just still not enjoyable to warrant two people spending that much money on it.
Yeah, because it was one of those things, actually, just you mentioned in Game Pass, this was only announced for Game Pass maybe a couple of weeks before it was released.
Yep.
So I'm kind of curious, like, did they kind of realize that no one's going to buy this otherwise?
Oh, like, the other side of it is there is the demo for this, and I think the demo doesn't give a great showing of what the game is, because I don't think you really get deep enough into some of the skills and stuff to really see what they're trying to do. But it'll give you a decent idea of if you like just enjoy the basic shooting side of it and kind of the way some of the skills interact. But it's definitely not a full the demo doesn't give a great representation of what the combat does become, but it's a nice indicator of is it worth looking more into the game. The demo's also pretty long, to be honest, which is pretty cool, and all the progress carries over.
Sweet. So that is Nick's thoughts and opinions on Outriders, currently available on PC, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and Stadia. That's still a thing. For £50, and as Nick mentioned, it is also available on Xbox Game Pass, but only for consoles, not PC.
Only console and cloud, not on the PC.
Thank you for joining us, Nick.
No problem.